Hey, Mike, do you want to do the intro for this week's episode?
Sure, I'll do it.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome to Politics in a Movie with your hosts, Doug and Mike. I'm Mike.
And I'm Doug.
This week's episode, the President Reagan assassination attempt and the Princess Bride. As always, we'd like to thank our tech guy behind the scenes, Frenchie. He is wearing an Olympic shirt today. Congrats to France for a great Olympic showing.
Oh, yeah. Congratulations, Frenchie. You guys did great. It was a great show.
Yeah, it was good.
All right. So thanks, Mike, for shaking up our intro this week.
Sure.
But listen, we're not going to shake up things too much. We're still going to have the first segment be the political topic.
Bang, bang, I used to shoot you down.
Okay, well, our political topic is the President Reagan assassination attempt, which occurred on March 30th, 1981. Did you know, Doug, that 4 of our presidents, of our 46 presidents, have been assassinated in office?
No, I did not.
You think you can name them?
The 4 presidents who have had assassination or have actually been assassinated?
Yes.
I can't.
You can name a couple, can't you?
Hamilton?
How about new?
Hamilton was never president, Doug.
Well, see, that I have no idea.
Well, I'll give you a hint. One said, "We will go to the moon, not because it is easy, but because it is hard."
How could I forget that one? Yes, of course. JFK.
Yeah, another one said, 40 years ago today, our founding.
Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, so there's 2. There's just 2 left.
How could I forget those 2?
And I'll give you the 2 others that were assassinated while in office. Both Ohioans, James Garfield in 1881 and William McKinley in 1901.
Oh, okay.
McKinley is integral to this conversation because it was after McKinley's assassination that the Secret Service adopted their charge for protecting presidents and vice presidents and their families, etc. So McKinley was assassinated, 1901, in Buffalo, New York. And it was after that that the Secret Service, sometime after that, the Congress and the president decided that the Secret Service should be charged with protecting the president and the vice president, and et cetera, et cetera. 4 other presidents died in office, not of assassination, but they included William Henry Harrison, John Tyler, Zachary Taylor, Millard Fillmore. Millard Fillmore was succeeded to Zachary Taylor, Warren G. Harding, and FDR, which we talked about in a previous episode. FDR died while in office of a stroke that was brought on by his polio.
Right.
Yeah. It's not a surprise that having seen these 4 assassinations, the Secret Service is charged with protecting the president. There have been other presidents who had attempts at assassination, including, I think before Reagan, the previous one was Gerald Ford, who was shot at twice, both by women assailants. Both obviously failed in their attempt to assassinate Gerald Ford.
Wow, I didn't know that. So he had 2 angry women trying to assassinate him?
Yeah, they didn't know each other as far as I know.
Yeah, well, they both had a bone to pick with him. I wonder if he was like a ladies' man or something on the side.
No, I don't think so. One of them was Squeaky Fromme was her name, and she was a member of the Manson gang.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think a lot of these assailants have some issues, we'll say.
That seems like it, yes.
Yeah. So anyway, on March 30th, 1981, President Ronald Reagan was shot and wounded by John Hinckley Jr. In Washington, D.C. He was returning to his limousine after speaking at the Washington Hilton Hotel. Have you ever been to the Washington Hilton, Doug?
I may have.
Well, it's like the biggest room in Washington. So a lot of times, like the correspondence dinner, things that you'll see that are broadcast from Washington are often filmed from the Washington Hilton. It's a really big room.
Right.
So Reagan was giving a big speech to labor representatives, and oddly, I don't know if it's odd, but back then the newspapers would publish the president's schedule and where he was going to be,
Oh,
which is how Hinckley found out. And in fact, Hinckley had been at other places where Reagan was, and even Carter before Reagan. Hinckley had shown up perhaps to attempt an assassination before.
wow.
Yeah. So anyway, Reagan is exiting the Washington Hilton and going to his limousine. Hinckley is in the crowd and he fires shots toward Reagan.
Right.
And this revolver, 22 revolver, which are small bullets, one of them hit Reagan in the rib, kind of in the armpit. And there were others that hit his press secretary, James Brady,
Right.
and then a Secret Service agent named William Delahanty, I think was his name, and a local D.C. police officer was also hit. But Brady got the worst of it. He was hit in the head and suffered brain damage.
Right.
And in fact, he lived until 2014. They listed his cause of death, 33 years later or so, as homicide.
Right.
So it just took that long. Very sad. He was a very outgoing, gregarious guy, James Brady. I actually met him a couple times, Doug.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So as you know, I worked on Capitol Hill. I worked for a couple different members of Congress. And Brady and his wife, Sarah, after that incident, they became gun control advocates.
Right.
And they started an organization, and they also were in favor of this bill, which was called the Brady Bill, which required background check and waiting period when you bought a handgun. So when I worked on the Hill, I worked for Joe Brennan from Maine, and Sarah Brady and James Brady came by the office to meet with my then Congressman Joe Brennan, to push the Brady Bill.
Now, I always thought that the Brady Bill was a bill that said all divorced dads had to remarry someone who had the same number of children as you.
No, I think you're mixing things up, Doug. No, you're thinking of the Brady Bunch.
It's the story of a man named Brady.
Oh, right.
Very different.
Not
Very
the Brady
different.
Bill. Yes.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So I'm happy to say the Brady Bill did end up passing a number of years later. And so now that's why we do have background checks and waiting periods when you purchase a
Now,
gun.
I also thought that the Brady Bill had something to do with automatic weapons or something, assault rifles.
No, that's gun control is there's a lot of different facets to it.
Right,
and,
but the Brady Bill wasn't assault rifles. Yeah.
No, it was about a background check and a waiting period.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
So the assault weapon legislation was something that happened later. I think in the 90s. I'm not sure. Maybe Frenchie could check into that. But that was something that did pass and then ended up getting revoked or removed after it was passed. But interesting, having met James Brady twice, he still, he did have issues with his, cognitive functions. But he spoke well. I mean, he clearly didn't speak probably as he did when he was press secretary and doing press conferences, but he still had that very gregarious, outgoing. You could tell he was trying to crack jokes and keep everybody entertained in the room. He just had that type of personality. And Sarah, his wife, they have both since passed, but she was the head of the Brady organization, and she was the big proponent who went around Capitol Hill. Brady was in a wheelchair and went to each congressional office and worked hard to lobby Capitol Hill for the Brady Bill.
Frenchie's chiming in on your fact there.
Yeah.
He says that the Public Safety and Recreational Firearms Act was enacted in 1994.
Okay.
And then it expired in 2004.
Right. It expired and they didn't extend it.
Right.
But, on the day of the attempted assassination, Secret Service agents jumped on Ronald Reagan and covered him up with their bodies, which is what they're trained to do, pushed him into the limousine and raced off to George Washington University Hospital. I think that was considered unusual because being president, he would have typically gone to the Bethesda Naval Hospital, where presidents are usually looked after.
Right.
but I think they thought it would be quicker to go to George Washington, so that's where he was treated.
Well, also GW has a very good medical program.
Yes, yes.
And I've been to that hospital, since I went to GW.
Yeah,
And,
wow.
yeah, and it's a great hospital. I always felt like I got great care there, Mike.
It's definitely a great hospital. Reagan, I guess, when he was before he went under anesthesia, he asked the doctors, "Now I hope you're all Republicans."
Right.
So ever the entertainer.
He was,
as
yes.
he was going into surgery, he wanted to make everybody feel at ease in the room. Yeah. But yeah, they didn't know exactly immediately that he had actually even been shot. It wasn't until he got to GW that they realized that, yes, he had a bullet that was lodged in his ribs or, in his upper body.
Oh, damn. So they just brought him there just to be, just as a precaution.
Well,
and then they're like, oh, holy smokes, you got a bullet in you.
And something I read said that he was even, some might say, close to death, and they revived him and got him going. And maybe it was those who decided to go that it'd be quicker to go to GW than to Bethesda,
Right.
May have saved his life. But back to John Hinckley, he was I don't want to say he was an interesting character because I don't want to give him any credit, but
Right.
he had a mental illness and he was obsessed with Jodie Foster. I remember hearing this before I did any of this research. I didn't know this. His attempts at, assassinating Reagan was somehow to impress Jodie Foster, who he had a crush on and a fascination with.
Right.
But in his mind, he thought that shooting the president would endear him to Foster, that she would actually respect and recognize him.
Yeah. And so he wrote a lot of letters to her. I guess in all the letters he would be updating her on his plans, which they found later, that he hadn't mailed.
Right.
So yeah, an odd character. So he was committed to a mental facility and I guess remained there until recently. I guess he was recently released.
Right. So I guess instead of the standard, flowers and a dinner, it was letters and a shooting.
Yeah.
We don't advise that.
No, I'm when courting the girl that you like, maybe maybe take a different tack. But anyway, back to Reagan. Alexander Haig, who was the Secretary of State, famously declared that he was in charge.
Oh, really?
In the White House. That with Reagan, under anesthesia and being operated on, Alexander Haig said, the quote is, "The helm is right here," and that means right in this chair now, constitutionally, until the vice president gets here, that Haig was in charge.
As of now, I am in control here in the White House.
There are people who say he jumped the gun there. He didn't need to make that declaration. George H.W. Bush, he was technically under the 25th Amendment with the president incapacitated, that Vice President Bush was in charge, even though he was, I guess technically he was on a plane heading to Washington at the time.
Oh, right.
So, yeah.
And so that was Bush Senior, like the first Bush.
Yes.
Which in my opinion was kind of the better Bush, I would say. Yeah, so he must have been, and he was like formerly in the CIA, so he was a pretty knowledgeable in military methods or whatever. He must have been sort of upset about that, like, oh, just because I'm on a plane, you're taking over.
Yeah. And then even constitutionally, with the president incapacitated, the line of succession the Secretary of State is fourth in line. It goes president, vice president, Speaker of the House, who was then Tip O'Neill. Then third is President pro tempore, who was then Strom Thurmond. So there were three people ahead of Alexander Haig before Haig was in charge. But I think Haig kind of qualified what he had said with, no, I'm just saying that in the White House here that I'm the highest ranking person. I don't know.
So, I'm just saying because you're stuck in a long line waiting for Spirit Airlines to board that I am in charge.
Yes. Yeah. So that was just another kind of plot line that was happening while that was happening.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Ronald Reagan. Yeah. The public reaction to everything that was happening. I just remember that we didn't even know that Reagan was hit until like right away. I think the television reporting was that Reagan has been rushed to the hospital. But I think initially it was just like a precaution, and they didn't know that he had been hit.
Yeah, and back then, people didn't have cell phones and all that stuff, like
exactly right,
constantly recording, and so everyone was just sort of waiting to hear, because
exactly,
like you had to watch the news. You had to watch like the 3 news channels that existed, and and they were the ones who were just sort of reporting, and they didn't even know what the hell was going on.
No, and there was no cable news then.
Right.
It was all like the 3, ABC, NBC, and CBS. So everybody was waiting, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
It was, and then even I think there was like misinformation that somebody said he was having open heart surgery, and that was also the night of the Academy Awards.
Oh.
And so this is the thing, and I actually also the NCAA championship was happening that night. So it's just funny to look back what seems like the Stone Age now, and where everybody doesn't have immediate information at their fingertips.
Right. Yeah. And it sounds like it was a busy news day.
Yes. Yeah. There was a lot going on. And, and by the way, President Reagan has been shot,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was March 30th. And I think Reagan was in the hospital until it says April 11th.
So I guess George Bush was in power for 12 days.
Yes.
And did he do anything? Did he?
I don't think so.
Was he like gleefully like enacting laws and like, finally, here's my chance?
Right. Yeah. No, I think Reagan was still kept apprised of things that were going on, although I'm sure everybody was letting him rest.
Yeah. Because that would be a great opportunity, name a couple of buildings after yourself,
right.
Pass a couple of quick laws.
Yeah.
Well, missed opportunities, Mike.
Yep. So that's the Reagan assassination attempt in a nutshell.
Help! I'm in a nutshell. How did I get into this nutshell?
All right, Mike. Well, thank you for outlining those bullet points for that topic.
Sure. No problem, Doug.
Let's now move into our movie segment.
Sure.
The Princess Bride.
Yes.
So The Princess Bride, Mike, it was made in 1987. And it was directed by Rob Reiner, who some listeners might remember as Meathead from All in the Family.
Come on, Meathead!
The TV show. But I always think of him as a director from great movies, Mike. Like,
definitely.
Like This Is Spinal Tap, Stand By Me, When Harry Met Sally, and A Few Good Men.
Yes.
Just to name some.
Those are all good ones.
Yeah, I always think of Rob Reiner as a director, And The Princess Bride, Mike, the movie was based on a book that Reiner had loved when he was a kid.
Right.
So he always had it in his mind that he'd like to see it turned into a movie, and he made it happen. Now, the book was written in 1973 by William Goldman, who was another fantastic writer, Mike, for both screen and novels.
Yep.
As we talked about in our last episode, I love Michael Crichton as a writer. And this guy Goldman, he's just another writer that I hold the same extreme esteem for.
Yeah.
Extreme esteem, Mike. Hold on.
That sounds like a band name.
It does. Hold on. I'm making a note. I'm making a note to self. Copyright that for an energy drink.
Right.
Yeah, well, just a couple of quick notes on William Goldman. He actually won 2 Academy Awards in his career for his writing.
Wow.
One for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
You just keep thinking, Butch. That's what you're good at.
Boy, I got vision and the rest of the world wears bifocals.
And the other one for All the President's Men.
Oh, 2 good movies. I like both of those.
Yeah. And he also wrote a bunch of novels. The 2 that I'm very aware of is, of course, The Princess Bride, but also Marathon Man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He wrote that book, and that was turned into a movie also.
Yes.
Is it safe?
Yes, it's safe. It's very safe. It's so safe you wouldn't believe it.
And,
Dustin Hoffman?
Yeah, Dustin Hoffman was in that. And so William Goldman, he wrote those 2 books, Princess Bride and Marathon Man, and then he did the adapted screenplays for both of those.
Talented guy.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's another interesting note about the movie, Mike. Whenever I do my research, I watch the whole thing in its entirety.
Oh.
And at the very end, it says copyright 1987 by the Princess Bride Limited.
Is that right?
Which is kind of funny, Mike. I guess they figured it would be like maybe a whole franchise or something,
Yeah.
Action figures, amusement parks, lunchboxes. but that didn't really pan out. And then it also says a Buttercup Films limited picture. So I guess they even had like a specific legal entity production company created for the thing.
Sounds like some lawyers were involved.
I don't want a lawyer. I hate lawyers.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. All right. And finally, Mike, regarding Academy Awards, which I know you are always curious about, it was only nominated for one thing, Best Original Song.
Oh.
And it lost to a song from Dirty Dancing.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
No big Academy Award stuff came out of that film, but of course, it grew into a huge cult classic.
I thought Andre the Giant would have gotten nominated for supporting actor, maybe.
Well, let's talk about the cast. This film, I mean, it had a great cast, Mike.
Yeah.
And the two main actors were basically unknown at the time. Cary Elwes, he also loved the book as a kid, apparently. So he was excited that they chose him. And by the way, how did I not even know that this thing was a book when I was a kid? It seems like everyone knew it. Everyone's like, oh, it's my favorite book. And also Robin Wright. She was an unknown.
Yes. Yeah.
In fact, she was so unknown that in the credits, it says introducing Robin Wright.
Yeah. She must have been very young, 1987.
Yeah. And of course, Robin Wright, she's had a great career, Mike, but I'll always know her as Jenny from Forrest Gump.
We were like peas and carrots.
Jenny and me was like peas and carrots.
Some of the other actors, Mike, that caught my eye. Peter Falk.
Yes.
Plays the grandfather. I love that guy. Did you know Peter Falk had one glass eye?
I think I did know that.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, yeah.
Yeah, I knew that without even looking it up. Mandy Patinkin. Patinkin.
Mandy Patinkin.
Mandy Patinkin.
Yes.
I'm so bad with pronouncing names. I apologize, Mandy, for my butchering of your name. But he plays in Inigo Montoya.
Yes.
And you got to love Mandy, Mike. I mean, this guy has won awards for stage work.
Yes.
He has an Emmy for when he was in Chicago Hope. I personally love him in Homeland.
Yes.
Plus, he was the voice of Papa Smurf in that Smurf movie.
Oh, who doesn't know that?
Yes, which I'm sure. Yeah. And I'm sure that garners some cachet to our younger listeners.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, since we've talked about method actors in our past episodes.
Yes.
Like, some actors show up drunk because their character is a drunkard. But Mandy, he did some method acting in this film when he delivered that famous line.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
In real life, his dad had died when Mandy was around 20 years old. So his dad passed away young. And so he called upon that when he was delivering that line. You can sort of see the emotion in his face. Arguably, that's better method acting than showing up drunk. Continuing on with this amazing cast, Mike, we got Andre the Giant, as you noted.
Yes.
Who plays Fezzik. Mm-hmm. And Andre the Giant, Mike, he's 7'4".
Yeah.
And 520 pounds.
Ooh.
Yes. Now, Mike, that is bigger than a T-Rex. Hey, Frenchie's chiming in. For you Europeans, that's 224 centimeters. Yes.
Well, here's a question. How tall is Wallace Shawn?
Yeah, he is a lot shorter. Apparently, one of the reasons they casted Wallace Shawn was because of the discrepancy in height between him and Andre. In fact, they also looked at Danny DeVito.
Regan! What? I wonder who it could have been.
It could have been. He's also small.
Yeah, he's also small. He's got a whole different style to his voice.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Wallace Shawn was awesome. He was so good.
Yeah, we'll talk about him in a second.
Yeah.
But just continuing on Andre, he was known as a professional wrestler, of course.
Yes. Yep.
And I don't think I ever even knew his real name. I mean, he's only billed as Andre the Giant. Even in the movie, his credit is Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
And everywhere else, that's how he was known. I sort of figured he'd show up at a restaurant and they'd be like, Mr. the Giant, we have a special table for you.
They'd have to have a special table for him.
They really would. But his real name is André René Roussemoff.
Wow.
And he was born in France. Did you hear that, Frenchie? Born in France. Frenchie's nodding. And Mike, I used to watch all that wrestling stuff when I was a kid. Did you ever watch that professional wrestling?
Yeah. Yes.
That was a big thing. Andre the Giant, of course, he was awesome. And then I remember these other wrestlers back then, like Superfly, Jimmy Snuka, the Iron Sheik,
yep,
King Kong Bundy, Big John Studd.
Yep. Killer Kowalski.
Yeah, I mean, that was the classic wrestling era.
Yeah.
You know, I was sort of into wrestling so much that as kids we had a basement when we were growing up. Nice basement, Mike. You know, my dad put a lot of effort into it. It had like nice wood paneling. It had a pool table, pinball machines, all kinds of stuff, like a nice basement. And my younger brother and I, we'd have friends over and we'd practice all these wrestling moves. In our basement, we'd be trying body slams, clotheslines, suplexes, back breakers. And my favorite, Mike, was the slingshot. And that's where you know, a guy's on his back and you sort of grab his legs and you fall backwards and slingshot the guy through the air.
Oh.
And I remember I tried that move on this one kid who had a larger head than most kids.
Yeah.
And he flew across the room and he head first put a huge hole in our wall. This large head-sized hole in the nice wood paneling, you know, wall that we grabbed a picture off of one other wall and hung it over the hole. Anyway, you know, fun as kids wrestling, Mike. All right. So Wallace Shawn, as you noted, he plays Vizzini.
Yes.
And this guy, Wallace Shawn, he has to be the most quoted from this film, I think.
Am I going mad? Or did the word think escape your lips?
This guy, Wallace Shawn, you know, he had a very well-educated upper-class upbringing.
Oh.
He grew up in New York City, Manhattan's Upper East Side, which many consider to be the best side, Mike.
Okay.
He went to a private high school and then graduated from Harvard.
Oh.
He sort of brings that, you know, well-educated confidence to the character.
Yeah. He knew about the classic blunders.
Yeah.
Like, never start a land war with China and never go in with a Sicilian when death is on the line.
Yes, very well done. And lastly, I'll mention two comedians who were put into a scene, Billy Crystal and Carol Kane.
Yeah.
And you don't even really know it's them. They got a lot of makeup on. Like you don't really even know it's them until the credits. And Rob Reiner apparently let them do a lot of improving.
Bye-bye, boys.
Have fun storming the castle.
Yeah.
We all know Billy Crystal. And Carol Kane, you know, she was well known for being a comedic actress and a number of things. I mean, I remember her in that Bill Murray movie, Scrooged.
Sometimes you have to slap them in the face just to get their attention.
Oh, yeah.
She plays like one of the lunatic ghosts or something. She's hilarious.
Yeah, both of those. I loved their part, you know, their improv and everything. I thought that was a really good part of the movie.
All right, Mike. Well, let's talk a little bit about the movie and some things that I loved. You know, it starts with a grandpa reading the book to a kid. Grandpa's trying to convince him that books are cool. He's like, books used to be TV for kids, you know. And I like how the kid's room, it's like decked out in all kinds of Chicago memorabilia.
Yeah.
He's got a poster of the Fridge, you know, that
William
that
Perry.
Chicago Bears football player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Bears. The Bears. The Bears.
Anyway, so the kid is sick and he's in bed, so he has no choice but to listen to the book. You know, the kid says, well, okay, it sounds okay because pirates and stuff. But it's not too long before the kid cuts in and says, whoa, there's kissing?
What is this? Are you trying to trick me?
Anyway, it's great how the movie kind of switches back and forth between, you know, the grandpa reading the story and then, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. But, you know, Peter Falk, he played the classic bait and switch, Mike, where you start out thinking pirates and then before you know it, kissing.
Yeah.
So the bad guy, Mike, Prince Humperdinck, says he's going to marry a common lady. And so he picks Buttercup, Robin Wright.
Yep.
And right away, she gets kidnapped by the crew of misfits, Vizzini, Fezzik, and Inigo. And I just love the interaction with the three there.
Yes.
Vizzini's constantly berating his crew, yelling at them.
And you, friendless, brainless, helpless, hopeless. Hurry up! Move it! I'm waiting! Did I make it clear that your job is at stake? Ah!
Those interactions, that dialogue is great. To me, Mike, the best stretch of the entire film is the princess getting kidnapped and Wesley chasing them.
Yes.
And by the way, you know, for our listeners, the tie-in here between our political topic and the film is that this gang of three, they're basically kidnapping her to perform an assassination.
Okay, there's the connection.
Okay, so Wesley is chasing them, trying to get back the princess, and they're running away, and they're surprised that someone's chasing them.
Look, he's right on top of us.
They're like, we're going to lose him here at the cliffs.
Whoever he is, he's too late.
They're on a boat, and they dock in front of this sheer cliff.
See? The Cliffs of Insanity!
Which is a real cliff in Ireland.
Wow.
And it's funny, like, Andre the Giant straps everyone onto his back, like 4 people, and starts to climb up climb up this rope up the side of the cliff, right?
Yep.
I'm carrying 3 people, and he got onto himself.
And it's interesting to note that Andre the Giant, back then, this was later in his career, and he had a lot of back trouble.
Oh.
So he really couldn't lift almost anything. And so anytime you see him like doing any kind of physical exertion, everything is on a wire to make it easy for him.
Look, I don't mean to be rude, but this is not as easy as it looks.
Anyway, they get to the top of the cliff and they sort of split up. And Mike, you got to love the fencing duel that happens up there.
Oh, yeah.
A classic duel. And the 2 actors there, of course, Mandy and Carrie, they trained extensively with swords for that sequence.
Mm-hmm.
They both trained left-handed and right-handed.
Yeah, well, that's key to the story.
Yeah. And I love how Inigo is very gallant. I hate to have to kill you.
We are men of action. Lies do not become us.
But Wesley wins and just knocks the guy out, and then he moves on, and he's got to fight Andre the Giant.
Right.
And again, I love that the character Andre the Giant plays is also very fair in the fight.
Yeah.
It's like, let's fight like honest men.
You mean we'll try and kill each other like civilized people?
And Andre the Giant, like, he is so big, it's hard to really know, but when you see his hands near other people,
yeah,
like his hands are as big as someone's head, right?
When I was a kid, I used to get Sports Illustrated, and it showed his hand with a beer can. His hand was like bigger than the beer can. They're bigger than a can. It was like that big.
He's got huge paws. Word has it during the filming, Robin Wright would get cold, and Andre would just cover her head with his big mitt, and it would like instantly kind of warm her up. But anyway, Wesley plays the Man in Black, knocks out Andre, doesn't kill him, of course, because they're all very gallant and fair in these fights. Except for the final fight with Vizzini.
Oh, right.
And you got to love the dialogue there, Mike, as you already said. Never paddle a Sicilian,
Yeah. Never go in with the Sicilian when death is on the line.
Exactly. And then one of the lines, his laughter is hilarious, And then one of the lines I love is he accuses Wesley. He's like, "You are trying to kidnap what I have rightfully stolen." Great dialogue, tremendous dialogue. Kudos to Wallace Shawn for his role in the film. And of course, he plays the mean one out of that crew. And, and so Man in Black, Wesley doesn't take it as easy on him.
Ha, you fool! You fell victim to one of the classic blunders.
Truly, you have a dizzying intellect.
But then, Mike, the film does get a little bit slow. It sort of slows down when Wesley gets captured, then rescued, then tortured.
Skip to the end.
It takes a while before he gets back into the film in any real fashion.
Because he wasn't dead. He was just mostly dead.
That's right. Another funny scene, Mike, is the wedding. And the priest is funny. The priest is like, marriage, that blessed engagement. He's just over the top, silly voice.
Right.
In the credits, he's credited as the impressive clergyman. That's the character's name. All right. And so, Mike, while that marriage is going on, that's where Inigo has that final, showdown with the 6-fingered man.
Yeah. Christopher Guest.
Yeah.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Yes. Well done. And when he said that line, apparently, that was where he was doing his method acting, channeling his true life experience. And it shows.
Christopher Guest, the 6-fingered man. He's interesting because he spoke with an English accent. I assumed, he's American, so that's a good job. He's an English. He's born in England. Was a member of the House of Lords. He's like a duke or something.
Wow.
Yeah, and his wife, Jamie Lee Curtis, is a lady.
Hello, lady.
That's a good tidbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does a good job, and Cary Elwes is English also. So
yes.
He has a great accent in the film. So that adds to the authenticity of the film, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in all, this film, it's a cult classic. It has so much good dialogue in it that makes you laugh and is memorable. And quotes in this film have really, lasted through the decades, and people still will make these quotes today.
Great movie, lots of great quotes.
All right, well, for all of us here at Politics and a Movie, thank you for listening. And you can check out our website at politicsandamovie.com.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Mike.
And thank you, Frenchie.
The end. That would be inconceivable. As I told you, it would be absolutely, totally, and in all other ways, inconceivable. 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 Inconceivable!
You keep using the word. I do not think it means what you think it means.